All right, we're going to kick this one off. This is, as Karen just told everyone, private equity and media and entertainment. Just before I introduce the guests here, this topic is of particular interest to me because I covered this sector at the Wall Street Journal about 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, 12. I thought it was going to be fun, and then it turned out I was covering the breakup of our own company, News Corp, so it wasn't that fun. And then I did found my own media company 7 years ago. So I've got a little bit of background in this space, but we've got three really interesting perspectives coming from the group here. Josh has a media entertainment background from his time at Allen & Company. I've covered that conference also. He recently had a very successful raise of $130 million for Harlan Special Opportunities Fund 5. He'll tell you a bit more about that. Jason also was a portfolio manager, Wall Street background, now is the CEO of MyBundle, which in a nutshell connects consumer streaming services and broadband providers as people keep cutting the cord. And Mary went the other direction. So Mary had a very successful career as an operator in ad tech, working at the Trade Desk, other major operators, and now she's a technology-focused investment banker. So Mary, let's talk a bit about the landscape I was just alluding to, say, a decade ago. The thing that I was covering at the time was actually more about the shift away from linear TV to, delayed watching DVR. And there were a couple companies that were up and coming then, Netflix, Hulu, which was a JV between a few of them, and they weren't taking that seriously. I mean, I remember talking to a lot of short sellers about them and writing articles from their perspective. But tell us about that seismic shift that happened when people really started preferring over the top in droves. And it's not done, by the way, folks. You can give us some numbers on that, Mary. And did advertisers respond nimbly, and is there still more catching up to do?
Yeah, well, we probably all remember TiVo. So TiVo was way back, early O's, and at that time, people were not watching ads, right? And ads are what really power the content that we watch, and these big media companies as well. So that was a big shift. And then flash forward 10 years, people started streaming. And in 2015, I believe 76% of people still had their cable subscriptions. And that's really changed, right? COVID really sped forth the idea that we're gonna cut the cord. We're not gonna pay for cable and streaming. And people were inside, and people were consuming tremendous amounts of fiction, nonfiction, all sorts of programming. So our behaviors as consumers really changed. And we wanted to be able to watch it on demand, and we wanted to watch high quality content. So that really shifted things really quickly from the consumer side. But at the same time, COVID was here, and companies like P&G and Unilever really said, oh my gosh, we don't know what this pandemic is bringing. We need to get more efficient with our advertising dollars. And so sort of simultaneously, people that were consuming broadcast media and cable, they started shifting, and more of the ad spend was really going to the streaming services as of, I believe that happened in 2021. So the ad dollars are shifting because it's more efficient. And also, when you're watching TV, they're just blasting it on who they think is watching at 6 p.m., right? On a Tuesday, or whatever you're watching, and what you're watching. But when you're consuming digital content, they really know who you are, right? There's all sorts of data out there, and the data can say, that I am a woman with children and a dog, and could be buying this or have bought this in the past. I used to work a lot on sports betting, and I don't sports bet at all, but when I would have a client like that, all of a sudden FanDuel was like every ad on TV that I was getting targeted with was sports betting, which is really interesting because it makes you think, right? I don't really like it because I'm getting targeted with a lot of Ozempic ads right now, and I want to know why. But overall, it's much more efficient. They know who you are. They can get data from all sorts of first-party sources, and all, you know, if you bought this at Target, if you bought dog food, they know. Advertisers can tell that you are their customer and you like their type of dog food. So it was really efficient, and it really crossed over about 2021, and now, you know, there's a lot of dollars going into digital advertising on the streaming networks.
Great. Let's get Jason into this. So Jason, I know you have a very strong view on that shift, and I think that might have been part of the impetus to found your company. Tell us a bit about how your privately owned company, by the way, can benefit from this technological change.
Sure. So first, I guess, just a question for the audience. Who here has cable still? Who has cable TV? Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Who here is happy with like the value proposition of cable TV still? Okay, so what's interesting too, we got it right there. You know, do you work for Spectrum or Comcast? Is that the, yeah. I won't tell everyone else. No, so right in 2016, peak cable, there were 100 million households that had traditional TV. 2014-15, when I was a long-short equity portfolio manager, we were investing accordingly that was going to go way down. After that started to happen, streaming accelerated, I kind of said, you know what's missing, or what's going to be missing? Sort of the Google Flights or the kayak for streaming, because it was going to get incredibly complicated. Everything was going to fragment, and then everybody would want somebody to put it back together. And so we called the company back then My Bundle. It was 5 years ago, but we called it My Bundle because our vision is still each one of us should have our own bundle of streaming services where it's easy to manage your subscriptions, find content across all your services, et cetera. And so we set out to build the suite of tools to help consumers figure that out. About 2 months after launching, right before COVID hit, a cable company came to us and said, look, we're looking to get out of the TV business because it's a terrible business. Can we use your tools to help our customers figure that out? Now fast forward 4 years later, 3-4 years later, we are working with, today, 283 broadband providers. There's 3,000 across the US. Our partners have 14 million internet customers, and we built this sort of B2B, B2B2C tool set to help their customers just simplify all of streaming. Ultimately, you mentioned the streaming services, the idea is we're aggregating the broadband industry and their customers for each streaming service, and aggregating the streaming industry for each broadband provider. And so there's a massive still capital, Josh can talk about it because he invests or owns one. There is fiber going in everywhere, billions and billions of dollars that is being invested. There's still a need for more capital going in the ground. A lot of activity there. So yeah, but that's what we're sort of in the middle of all this.
Great. I want to throw another one to Mary here. So we're talking about these streaming services in the early days when it was Netflix and Hulu. It was pure subscription, but now I think almost all of them have a hybrid with advertising. How does that work out? Does it get back to what you were driving at, that you can tell the advertisers we know a heck of a lot more about these people, these eyeballs, than we did with DVR or linear or whatever? Yeah,
a lot of it is the targeting, but the other thing is that in the last 2 years, the price of the streaming services has increased by 100%. So now we ask consumers, would you be willing to watch ads? And 34% of people say, I would be willing to watch 12 minutes of ads if you charge me $12 less. So you've noticed, I'm sure, that you have different options, that you can pay nothing and watch a lot of ads, you can pay a little something, watch a few ads, or you can pay a lot and watch no ads. How many people here don't have to watch ads because they're willing to pay for it? Actually, fewer than I expected. I don't watch ads.
All right, you know, we're going to touch on video games, but first, I think I want to change the sequence. Josh, just tell us a bit about this fund that I mentioned in the intro there, and then talk about the different sorts of media assets that your fund looks for.
So we make private credit and asset-based investments, all private market, and particularly focus on media, sports, and intellectual property. We've been investing in different kinds of IP for a long time. We found that in creative industries, there are a lot of idiosyncratic assets like film and TV rights, film and TV royalties, music royalties, et cetera, that still are somewhat underserved by traditional banks and financing sources. And so we work with operators and rights holders to come up with financial solutions when they want to monetize or borrow money against some of these kinds of assets. And what's fun about it is that new assets of the kinds that we're interested in are being created all the time. For example, people are just starting to talk about royalties in the context of YouTube. People are just starting to talk about royalties in the context of video games. In the sports world, we suddenly have the emergence out of almost nowhere of a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream related to name, image, and likeness royalties for college athletes. So it's a lot of fun to be on the hunt for the emerging categories of rights and royalties in these types of industries.
Great. Let's dig more into video games. And by the way, tomorrow we actually have the folks from GameSquare and a senior executive from the Dallas Cowboys to talk about that. But I'm curious, and from all three of you, the way that video games are consumed, how is that going to change? Is it going to be similar to what we saw with video content? Anyone?
I mean, I'm happy to get that started.
Yeah.
You know, video games are unbelievably large relative to how much attention they get. One estimate is that they generate globally $170 billion a year of revenue. That compares to about $30 billion a year for recorded music and also about $30 billion a year in film box office. So you're talking about an unbelievably massive market that doesn't get as much attention as it should. And something like 3.5, 4 billion people are accessible through smartphones through two app stores, Apple App Store and Google App Store. So you have an unbelievable, now obviously not all video games are distributed through the app stores, but a lot of them are. And it is an unbelievable form of distribution that's completely global.
The advertising side of video games is really just starting. So you can advertise, you can sponsor products inside the games, but there's a new startup company that has been doing audio ads while people are on their headsets playing video games, and it's serving them ads, sort of like radio type ads. So it's pretty cool. There's like so much upside that's going to happen in this industry because, to your point, there's so many people doing it and they're engaged, and you know, they're a very, very important audience.
Right. Well, there's obviously the casual gaming. I think that market is huge, but I just look at, again, what's going on in the country, across the country, the amount of fiber that's being built, and the broadband price. We got 1 gig, we got 2 gig, we got 5 gig. They're out there selling 8 gig, and you can't do anything with 8 gig today. But I think they've been saying that when it was 56 kilobytes and 2 meg, right? We somehow find a way to fill up the bandwidth that gets built, and I think that, to me, VR, like whatever, obviously gaming is a big implication. There's a lot of speed, or there's a lot of pipe that is being put out there that will be filled up by something, and gaming certainly is one. We think about, do you bundle a subscription to Game Pass with your broadband, with your streaming? Does it go with your music service? And so for us, it's beyond streaming. It's just building that sort of lifestyle bundle of your services that you want.
Great. Let's stick with that topic for a second here, Jason. So you've got relationships with, I think, a couple of hundred broadband providers across the country. When the three of us got together last week, both you and Josh had pretty strong feelings that there's a future where those guys gradually let go of offering cable channels and just go all over the top. But I guess the trouble is you're going to lose some people. You're going to hurt yourself to get something. So how quickly can that happen, if at all, and could private equity play a role?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I was telling Josh, maybe I shouldn't tell them. We said we would talk about it privately. You're going to see in 2025 cable providers shutting down left, right, and center. Again, most of us know the big guys. Charter is reinvesting in their video product, and actually, it's a more compelling product because you're going to get Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, all the media companies, streamers included if you get the Charter bundle. But a lot of these smaller guys cannot compete. They're all losing money. They're charging $130, $140 a month just for video. It has negative margin. It's all of their customer care calls. And they are coming to us, and we are helping them shut down their video by helping their customers find the live TV streaming service that's right for them. There'll be hundreds of cable companies shutting down into the next year. The guys that are starting up these fiber broadband providers, it's broadband only and my bundle, right? Like that's the role that we're playing, is we solve that job to be done for them. But the traditional linear TV, I am, is this on the record, off the record? What is this conference? Somewhere in between? Like, yeah, that's right. I'm going to assume the person I don't want to hear won't hear this. No, I think 3-4 years from now, there will be 5 out of today. There's probably like 500 cable companies. There'll be 5 left. They'll be the biggest ones. They're the ones everyone here has heard of. But the small guys, number 6 to 500, I think are going to say, what are we doing this for? And partner effectively with streaming through us.
I mean, we're big believers in the phenomenon that my bundle is predicated on. There's been a huge opportunity which has largely been a private markets activity, to sponsor new data-only fiber networks. We have one in Utah called Connects Networks, which is in the suburbs of Salt Lake City. We're offering a gig for $60 a month. We're getting people to turn off Comcast subscriptions that are $120 a month, and they can decide what types of streaming services they want on an a la carte basis. I think bigger picture, what's going on is there's, let's say, give or take, about 140 million US homes, and probably about 110 of them are worth connecting to fiber with private money. There's also a lot of public money subsidies for passing homes that are in rural locations. So you've got 110. The fiber industry is probably at about close to 70 million homes passed at this point. So there's about 40, give or take, left to pass. And the industry's building at about 8 million homes per year. So there's probably about 5 years left. And there's kind of consolidation going on at 2 levels. People who can assemble tens to low hundreds of thousands of homes passed are getting acquired by sort of regional majors like Metronet. And then if you get big enough to be in the millions of homes passed like Metronet, there's a takeout to Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. And so probably there's kind of 5-6 years left of that, and then you're going to have a very consolidated, very saturated industry.
Yeah, I think just like since we did our call together, Bell Canada said we're coming to the U.S. They bought a company called Ziply Fiber. Again, math. They basically paid $3,800 for each homes passed that Ziply had with fiber, which came out to about $12,000 for each household that they had as a customer, because based on their penetration rate. And you can build fiber, depending on where you are, at about $1,100, $1,200 per home passed. So you have people investing capital. It costs $1,200 to build fiber, and you got somebody else coming and paying $3,800 for that house. There's just a big arbitrage that is happening with folks like your money that's going out there and just investing in this massive, I still think, massive opportunity that is not going to last 30 years, but it is still a few more years of we see new startups in the fiber space coming up every week. It feels like is somebody else getting into the game.
I might have left out one detail that probably a lot of you know, but just in case people aren't aware of it, the significance of why it's great to be able to build a data-only network is because the data is extremely high margin. Your cost to go and get a big backbone connection is really quite moderate relative to that, let's say, $60 a month that you can charge people for a gig. On the other hand, voice and video are much lower margin. It's a hassle on video to be negotiating with programming providers. It's much more regulated. So if you could draw up a blank sheet of paper and say, what would be the easiest type of network for me to build? What would be the highest margin network to build? It would be a data-only network. That's why it's so significant.
Just 2 follow-up questions on that, gentlemen. So one, maybe I'm just overpaying, but there's a lot of fiber in downtown West Palm, and I think I paid twice that for a gig because I wanted it to be fast. So can you make money at $60? And then also, are you locked into affiliate carriage fees for several years that that you can't get out of if you're trying to break away? How does that work? Maybe Jason knows that one.
Well, usually it's really on the cost side is, do you have one option or two options, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the incremental EBITDA margins when you sign up, if you have 10 homes on a street and you have 3 of them, and you already built the fiber, to get that 4th guy costs you $1,000 to hook him up. After that, you're making it's 80% EBITDA margins,
wow.
right? And it's just cash coming in. And so what these guys are doing is, when there are 2 players, you're going to get sweet deals. I mean, our partners, we have a program called Streaming Choice. We actually built a virtual gift card platform, and our broadband providers are now saying, hey, if you sign up for internet, we'll give you $200 of streaming credits to go spend on any streaming service that you want. And so we're going to see more bundling, more offers as the big guys, T-Mobile gets into fiber, as Verizon, the vote got approved today, they just bought Frontier. So there's going to be more convergence with your wireless bill and your streaming and your fiber. You just need a little competition, and then prices do come down. But duopolies are still pretty good business models.
Makes sense. We're running out of time. Any questions to the audience? Otherwise, I've got another one or two. Oh, somebody? Oh yeah. Just try to speak up. I think because I don't, unless you want to get her a microphone. Will there be advertising in the metaverse? I mean, some of these video games are kind of like the metaverse, and you were talking about the product placements in there. So there is. So what?
Yeah,
Maybe she can take that one.
There is advertising in the metaverse.
I mean, Facebook changed its name to Meta for that reason.
Yeah. Let's stay on the advertising topic. I got to follow up for Mary. So Mary, when we were talking about subscription versus advertising, if you're able to tell the people who are buying that ad inventory so much about the customers, is there a world where there's a bigger shift towards advertising and less subscription because the advertisers are saying, I can almost ballpark what kind of sales I'm going to get out of the impression because I know so much about that consumer? Well,
of the people like myself who pay not to watch advertising, sometimes we're the best customers for things, right? Like you may be a high net worth person that advertisers really want to reach.
Yeah.
So you still need the subscription revenue as well to keep in business. So they have to find you some other way.
I got you.
But the streaming services, what they're doing is just that spread between the ad-free and the ad-supported price. They're not raising the ad-supported price. They just keep raising your Hulu subscription until people start crying uncle and say, fine, I'll watch some ads. And it's true, right? The people who are the most high net worth have the disposable income to buy their time back to not see those ads. But the AI, I don't know, like Apple Oven just reported earnings this past week, and blew away numbers. The stock is up God knows how much this year. It's a $95 billion company right now. They were an ad network for gaming, but they've figured out a way to deliver the right ads using AI. And that's, I think, we're just at the beginning of that, where if these ad networks can figure out to place the right ad to the right person at the right time, you could show less ads at a higher CPM and drive that higher return, and then pay for all the streaming content that we all love. That's the hope.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. We covered a lot of ground there. That was terrific.